Remy the rat goes to Paris to realize his dream, to become a top chef. Although rats are not allowed in kitchens, he befriends a garbage boy who works at a fancy restaurant. Today, we will recap the story of the 2007 movie Ratatouille. At the beginning of the film, there is a television documentary showcasing chef Auguste Gusteau, who is the most youthful chef in France to earn a 5-star rating and the proprietor of the finest eatery in Paris. He has also authored a top-selling cookbook that boasts his famous saying, "Anyone can cook." In a soliloquy style, a rodent named Remy describes his life. Remy explains that he possesses an extraordinary sense of taste and smell, which makes him highly selective about his food choices. Remy's brother Emile is impressed by this skill, but their father Django, who leads the rat colony, pays no attention to it, until Remy reveals his ability to detect the scent of rat poison in or near food. Django assigns Remy to test and sniff food for the rest of the group. Remy is unhappy with the rat's practice of stealing food from the garbage and would instead prefer to retrieve fresh samples from the kitchen. However, Django forbids Remy and all the other rats from interacting with humans, as he has a strong dislike and fear towards them. Disobeying his father's orders, Remy spends several nights at Mabel's residence, where the rats have established their colony, reading Chef Gusteau's cookbook and watching cooking shows on television. With this, he acquires an advanced level of knowledge about food preparation. One day, Remy convinces Emile to accompany him to the kitchen to obtain some spices that complement their other food samples. Despite his initial reluctance, Emile eventually agrees. While inside the kitchen, Remy sees Gusteau on TV and eavesdrops, discovering that a renowned food critic named Anton Ego, notorious for having extremely high standards, gave Gusteau's restaurant a subpar review, resulting in the loss of one of its 5 stars. The devastated Gusteau died soon after, leading to the loss of another star according to tradition. Upon hearing the news of Gusteau's passing, Remy accidentally awakens Mabel, who tries to shoot him and Emile with a shotgun. The duo narrowly escapes, but the gunfire damages the roof of the house, exposing the entire rat colony. Django orders an evacuation, but Remy stays behind to retrieve Gusteau's book. The rats flee on miniature rafts into a river, with Remy using the cookbook as a flotation device. However, the strong currents in the sewers separate Remy from the group. Hours later, Remy sits alone, reading the cookbook, waiting for any sign of his friends and family. Overcome by grief, hunger, and loneliness, he begins to hallucinate that Chef Gusteau's illustration is talking to him. Gusteau encourages Remy to venture through the sewers and explore his current location. Remy travels through several pipes and discovers that he has arrived in Paris, right in front of Gusteau's restaurant. At Gusteau's restaurant, the newly appointed head chef Skinner encounters Alfredo Linguini, who happens to be the son of Chef Gusteau's former lover Renata, who recently passed away. Linguini presents Skinner with a letter from his mother, hoping to secure a job at the restaurant. Skinner hires Linguini as dishwasher and puts him to work right away. As Remy observes the kitchen activity, he notices Linguini spilling soup and trying to cover up the mistake by adding random ingredients. Knowing that the combination would be awful, Remy panics and falls into the restaurant through the skylight. Although he tries to leave through an open window, the smell of the soup makes him sick, and he decides to add his own ingredients to fix the mixture. Guided by a vision of Gusteau, Remy keeps working on the soup, but Linguini catches him and traps him under a bowl before anyone else can see him. Skinner sees Linguini tampering with the soup and reprimands him, but it's too late to stop the staff from serving it. The food critic Solène Leclerc enjoys the dish, but Skinner still wants to fire Linguini. Colette defends Linguini, pointing out that firing him for making something the customer liked would go against the restaurant's values and damage their reputation. Skinner eventually relents and allows Linguini to stay. While trying to escape, Remy is caught by Skinner and Linguini, who intends to kill him as per Skinner's order. However, Linguini cannot bring himself to do it and takes Remy to a river instead. After realizing that Remy was the one who made the soup, Linguini adopts the rat and takes him home. The following day, Linguini discovers that Remy has taken some food and left, but it turns out that Remy has actually prepared breakfast for them both. Unfortunately, they realize they are running late for their shift at the restaurant. Linguini tries to figure out a way for Remy to cook without being seen by anyone else. After a few failed attempts, they discover that Remy can control Linguini by pulling on his hair, and decide to use his method to cook in secret during their free time. After some practice, they are able to replicate the soup that impressed the food critic. Skinner assigns Colette to train Linguini in the art of haute cuisine. Although she is initially resistant due to her hard-earned position as the only female chef and sees Linguini as a potential rival. Later that evening, Skinner has a meeting with an agent, where it is revealed that he has been profiting from the Gusteau name by selling cheap frozen food. He then reads the letter from Linguini's mother and realizes that if Linguini is indeed Gusteau's son, he will be the rightful heir to the restaurant. However, Skinner is skeptical and calls his lawyer to discuss the situation. The lawyer suggests conducting a DNA test and background check to determine if Linguini is actually related to Gusteau and a potential heir to the restaurant. Skinner is hesitant to believe it and fears losing his hold on the restaurant. Colette trains Linguini and Remy as they develop their skills in the kitchen. The two begin to develop a rapport, and Remy continues to learn by observing and listening closely. One night, a group of guests grow tired of ordering Linguini's soup repeatedly and ask Mustafa, the head waiter, for something new. The staff is thrown into a panic, but Skinner decides to have Linguini prepare a difficult recipe for sweetbreads in the style of Gusteau, hoping to sabotage him since Gusteau himself had labeled the recipe a disaster. Colette tries to follow the recipe, but Linguini, with Remy's help, makes significant changes to it, which annoys Colette. However, moments later, Mustafa enters the kitchen and announces that the customers are enjoying the dish and are requesting more. The other chefs congratulate Linguini on his success that evening. Skinner, aware of Remy's involvement, invites Linguini to his office and offers him a bottle of drink to try and extract information about his secrets, but he is unsuccessful. While Remy is resting outside, he spots a figure in the garbage pails, and to his amazement, he finds that it's his brother Emile. Excited to see him, Remy steals some ingredients to cook food for Emile. Later, Emile takes Remy to the new colony, where Django is happy to see his son alive, but angry when Remy wants to leave and return to Linguini. Remy reveals that he's observed humans and found that they're not as bad as Django thinks, but Django takes him to a storefront specializing in rat killing to prove his point. Remy disagrees and decides to leave the colony and go back to Linguini. The next day, Remy finds Linguini still at the restaurant after a long night of cleaning. When Colette arrives, Remy tries to hide Linguini's fatigue by giving him sunglasses. Colette, thinking that Linguini is being snobbish, slaps him, but later realizes her mistake and confesses that she thought he was different from the other chefs and had feelings for him. In an attempt to apologize, Linguini tries to confess his secret to Colette, but Remy intervenes and forces Linguini to interact with Colette, which leads to the start of their friendship. Antonio is surprised to learn from his butler about the revived popularity of Gusteau's restaurant. He decides to visit the restaurant to find out the truth about what's happening there. Meanwhile, Skinner's fears are confirmed by his lawyer. Linguini is Gusteau's legitimate son. However, Skinner decides to keep this information from Linguini and wait for the deadline to pass, after which he can legally fire him without any consequences. The deadline is only 3 days away. Later that evening, Linguini and Colette go for a ride on her motorbike, leaving Remy behind. Remy finds Emile while some other rats outside the restaurant and is upset that Emile told the colony about him. He decides to sneak into the restaurant to get food for the rats, and goes into Skinner's office to find the key to the food locker. While there, Remy discovers documents revealing Linguini's true parentage. He tries to take the documents, but Skinner catches him. Despite Skinner's chase, Remy manages to escape and Linguini learns the truth. Skinner is fired. Linguini takes over the restaurant, and Gusteau's frozen food line is discontinued. Following a press conference, where Linguini struggles to explain his culinary prowess without revealing Remy's involvement, Antonio makes an appearance and schedules a return to Gusteau's for a review. Later, Linguini expresses frustration to Remy about feeling dependent on him and decides to work without his help. Angry at being pushed aside, Remy plans a raid on the restaurant with his fellow rats. When Linguini discovers the plan, he kicks out all the rats, including Remy, warning him not to return or risk being treated as a pest. That night, Emile finds Remy near the restaurant as he observes Linguini's leadership struggles. Emile reaches for a piece of cheese, but Remy realizes it's a trap and gets caught trying to save his brother. The trap was set by Skinner, who offers Remy a job creating new frozen foods. The next night, Ego comes to the restaurant and challenges the chef to impress him with their best dish. Skinner asks to be served the same dish as Ego, hoping for Linguini's downfall. Remy, who was previously imprisoned, is rescued by his father and brother and shows his gratitude by returning to the restaurant to assist Linguini. When the other chefs notice Remy's presence, they attempt to harm him, but Linguini intervenes and shields Remy while also confessing the truth about their partnership to everyone present. This revelation leaves the chefs in shock and they leave the restaurant, including Colette. Believing that Gusteau's restaurant is doomed, Linguini retreats to his office. However, Django arrives and apologizes, admitting that his perception of humans has changed after witnessing Linguini defend Remy. Django then persuades the entire rat colony to support Remy in preparing the food by following his commands. Suddenly, a health inspector pays a visit and discovers the kitchen swarming with rats. However, a pack of rats led by Django surround the inspector and immobilize him, locking him in the pantry. After sanitizing the kitchen using the dishwasher, Remy oversees the rats as they work together in an elaborate system to cook all the restaurant's dishes. Meanwhile, Linguini realizes that someone needs to serve the guests and puts on roller skates to become the waiter. Colette has a change of heart and returns to the restaurant to assist Remy and Linguini. She asks Remy what dish he wants to prepare for Ego, and he chooses Ratatouille, an old-fashioned recipe that doesn't typically meet Gusteau's high standards. Colette refers to it as peasant dish. Despite this, the dish is prepared and served to Ant and Ego. When Ego takes a bite of the ratatouille, he is suddenly transported back to his childhood, where his mother had prepared the same dish to lift his spirits after a bicycle accident. He becomes overwhelmed with emotion for the dish. Skinner, infuriated, bursts into the kitchen, but he's quickly overpowered by the chefs and tied up along with the health inspector in the pantry. Ego is deeply moved by the exceptional meal and insists on expressing his gratitude to the chef, but he's informed that he must wait until all the other customers have left. Later that night, Linguini, Colette, and Remy reveal the truth to Ego about the restaurant's operation. After leaving the restaurant, Ego composes a glowing review of Gusteau's, proclaiming the chef to be the best in Paris, but keeping the chef's true identity a secret. Unfortunately, their success is short-lived. The health inspector and Skinner are eventually released, and the details of the kitchen's operators are leaked, resulting in the closure of Gusteau's. Ego loses his job and suffers a significant blow to his reputation for promoting a restaurant infested with rats. Remy narrates the story to his family and close friends, sharing that Ego is now working as a small business investor. It turns out that Ego, along with Colette, Linguini, and Remy, have opened a bistro called La Ratatouille, where both humans and rats are welcome, with a separate and hidden chamber for the rats. Gusteau's legacy lives on, and the bistro has become a beloved destination for food lovers, thanks to the unique and delicious cuisine created by the collaboration of both humans and rats. Thanks for tuning in to our recap of the beloved Pixar film Ratatouille. We hope you enjoyed revisiting the story of Remy, the talented chef rat, and his journey to fulfill his culinary dreams. But the fun doesn't stop here. Check out the movie Cars and join Lightning McQueen and the lovable resident of Radiator Springs as they race their way to the top in this heartwarming tale about friendship, loyalty, and finding your true purpose. Click this video and I'll see you there.